War crimes prosecutor Kim Yoon-hai stood before the Galactic Tribunal as beings from dozens of worlds watched. The courtroom had been built on a human space station orbiting neutral space. For the first time in galactic history, an aggressive species would face justice for attempted genocide. In the defendant's chair sat High Commander Vex Thule, the architect of the colony massacres. His forearms were chained and his gray skin looked pale under the bright lights. Around him sat 50 other Vorthak leaders who had planned or carried out the attacks on human worlds. The prosecution will now present evidence, Kim announced, her voice carrying across the silent chamber. The main screen lit up with images from New Busan. Green fields and crystal cities before the attack. Glass craters and burning ruins afterward. The delegates from other species shifted uncomfortably in their seats. 2,300,000 humans lived on New Busan, Kim continued. They were farmers, teachers, scientists, children. They had no weapons, no armies, no ability to threaten anyone. She touched a control and new images appeared. Luna Prime and New Sol before and after. Beautiful worlds reduced to lifeless rocks. The defendants called this pest control, Kim said, her voice growing stronger. They laughed as they murdered children. They celebrated the destruction of hospitals and schools. Vexthul tried to interrupt. We acted within our sovereign rights to claim territory for our people. Did you declare war? Kim asked. Did you give warning? Did you attempt negotiation? Those worlds belong to us by right of conquest. Conquest? Kim smiled coldly. You attacked civilians without warning. That is not conquest. That is murder. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Witnesses testified about the colony attacks. Survivors like Jinwoo told their stories. Vorthak communications were played, showing how the aliens had laughed about killing humans. The galactic delegates listened in growing horror. Many species had disliked humans, seeing them as newcomers who expanded too quickly. But even they could not stomach the casual cruelty of the Vorthak attacks. When the verdict came, it was unanimous. Guilty on all charges. Vexthul and his top commanders were sentenced to life imprisonment on a prison world. Lesser officials received shorter terms. But the real punishment was the humiliation of defeat, the mighty Vorthak Confederacy, which had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, surrendered completely to a species they had considered insects. Ambassador Choi Sung-ho addressed the reformed Galactic Council from the podium of the new human-built station. Representatives from every major species had come to hear what humanity would do with their victory. The Vorthak government has surrendered, Choi announced. Their military is disbanded. Their aggressive fleets are scuttled. War criminals are imprisoned. The Keltharian representative stood up. What of their territory? What of their people? Choi smiled. The Vorthak colonies will govern themselves, with human observers to ensure peace. The homeworld will be administered by a joint council until they prove they can govern without aggression. And the humans? Asked the Zephyrian delegate. What territory do you claim as conqueror? We claim nothing, Choi replied. We came for justice, not conquest. However, we will maintain bases in former Vorthak space to prevent future aggression. The chamber erupted in confused murmurs. Species conquered in war always demanded territory. It was the way of the galaxy. But, Choi continued, his voice growing cold, let no one mistake mercy for weakness. Humanity tried peace first. When that failed, we showed what we could do. Any species that attacks human civilians will face the same fate as the Vorthak. The Thornian ambassador, whose people had long bullied smaller species, shifted nervously in his seat. What if conflicts arise between humans and other species? He asked. Then we will talk first, Choi replied. But if talking fails, remember what happened here. Remember that humans fight to win, and we fight to make sure the fight never happens again. Director Shin Hyo-jin oversaw the reconstruction of the destroyed colonies. New Busan was being rebuilt, but it was different now. The new cities had underground shelters and orbital defense platforms. The farms were still green and beautiful, but weapon satellites hung in the sky above them. Jinwoo worked with the construction teams, helping to design a memorial for the dead. At the center of the new capital stood a crystal garden, where the names of all victims were carved in stone. Sora's name was among them, along with millions of others. It looks peaceful, observed Captain Cho Min-soo, now promoted to colonel. It is peaceful, Jinwoo replied. But it's also protected. No one will die here defenseless again. Around the memorial, children played and laughed. Some were human children, born after the war. Others were Vorthak youngsters, whose families had chosen to stay and build a better world. Admiral Kim Dae-ho, now Fleet Commander of Human Space Forces, walked among them with a smile. His daughter was dead, but these children represented hope for the future. At Luna Prime, the story was similar. The colony was rebuilt with both beauty and strength. Human families returned to their farms and cities. But now they lived under the protection of the most powerful military force in the galaxy. New Sol had become a fortress world, headquarters of the Human Defense Fleet. Ships came and went constantly, carrying supplies and personnel to bases throughout former Vorthak space. The memorial there was different. Instead of a garden, it was a museum showing the history of the war. Visitors could see how peaceful colonies had been destroyed without warning. They could learn how humanity had responded with precision and justice rather than blind revenge. School groups from many species visited the museum. Young Vorthaks learned about the crimes their leaders had committed. Other aliens learned that humans were not the primitive warmongers their governments had described. But the most important lesson was simpler. Never attack human civilians. In his office aboard the massive dreadnought New Busan's Revenge, Admiral Kim looked at reports from across the galaxy. Human ships patrolled trade routes, protecting merchant vessels from pirates. Human diplomats mediated disputes between species. Human doctors treated plague outbreaks on distant worlds. The galaxy was more peaceful than it had been in centuries. "Sir," his aide Captain Park Soo-won reported, "the Valdorian Empire has requested a defense treaty." Kim nodded. "Terms? They want protection from the Gornian Republic in exchange for mining rights in their outer systems. Send a negotiation team, but make sure they understand the rules." The rules were simple. Human protection came with human standards. No aggression against civilians. No slavery. No genocide. Species that followed these rules found humans to be generous allies. Those who broke them learned what 8 million dead colonists had taught the galaxy. That evening, Kim stood on his ship's observation deck and looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, human families were safe because of what had happened here. Children could sleep peacefully because the galaxy now knew the price of threatening them. He thought about Sora and the millions who had died in the colony attacks. They had been proud to be human, even at the end. Their sacrifice had awakened something in humanity that the galaxy had not expected. Humans had tried to be peaceful explorers and colonists. When that failed, they became something else entirely. They became the protectors of those who could not protect themselves. They became the force that prevented other species from doing what the Vorthak had done. The communication system chimed. President Han Ji-young's face appeared on the screen. "Admiral," she said, "I have a report from the Frontier Scouts. They've found evidence of another aggressive species in the far rim. The Krellian Empire. They're enslaving smaller worlds." Kim felt a familiar cold anger settle in his chest. "Orders, Madam President?" "Investigate. If they're committing atrocities, offer them the same choice we gave the Vorthak. Surrender and stand trial or face the consequences." "Understood." Kim cut the transmission and looked out at his fleet. Hundreds of black ships hung in formation around the command vessel. Each one carried the memory of murdered colonists. Each crew was ready to carry that memory to any world that threatened the innocent. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humans preferred peace, but they were very, very good at war. They fought with precision instead of rage. They showed mercy to the defeated, but no tolerance for cruelty. Most importantly, they remembered. Every civilian killed, every child murdered, every world burned. Humans remembered it all, and they made sure it never happened again. The stars waited, cold and infinite. Somewhere among them, new threats might be rising. But now the galaxy knew that if they chose to threaten the innocent, they would face the fury of Earth. And Earth's fury, once unleashed, was a terrible and unstoppable thing. Admiral Lee Chang-min stood on the bridge of the massive battleship New Busan's Hammer and stared at Vorthak Prime. The alien homeworld hung before them like a jewel in space. Crystal cities covered the continents. Floating gardens drifted through the clouds. It was beautiful and peaceful, untouched by war for thousands of years. "How many people down there?" Chang-min asked his intelligence officer. 4 billion Vorthaks, sir, plus 2 billion members of subject races they use as servants. Chang-min nodded grimly. Below them was a world that had never known fear. The beings on that planet had ordered the deaths of human children while sitting in luxury. They had laughed about pest control while 8 million humans burned. Now the human fleet surrounded their homeworld. 600 ships formed a steel net around Vorthak Prime. Every gun was pointed downward. Every missile was loaded. "Sir," Communications Officer Lieutenant Park Jiwon reported, "the Vorthak government is requesting to speak with you." "Put them through." The face of High Commander Vexthul appeared on the main screen. This was the alien who had planned the colony attacks. His 4 arms gestured angrily as he spoke. "Primitive humans," Vexthul snarled. "You dare bring your tiny ships to our sacred homeworld? We have orbital defense platforms, planetary shields, and 1,000,000 soldiers. Leave now or be destroyed." Changmin let the alien finish his threats. Then he smiled. "Fire 1 warning shot," he ordered. The battleship's main gun fired a single shot at the planet's largest defense platform. The energy beam punched through alien shields like they were made of paper. The massive station exploded in a ball of fire that could be seen from the planet's surface. Vexthul's eyes widened with shock. "Now you listen," Changmin said calmly. "That was our gentle warning. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. If you refuse, we will show you what happened to our colonies." "You cannot destroy a whole world," Vexthul protested. "The galaxy would never forgive such an act." "The galaxy said nothing when you murdered our children," Changmin replied. "Your hour starts now." He cut the transmission and turned to his staff. "Begin evacuation broadcast on all frequencies. Civilian areas first." Across the human fleet, speakers began transmitting in the Vorthak language. Dr. An Mi-young, who had survived New Busan, spoke to the terrified population below. "Citizens of Vorthak Prime," her voice echoed across the planet, "you have 1 hour to evacuate military targets and government buildings. Civilians will not be harmed if they stay away from combat zones. This is your only warning." On the planet's surface, panic spread through the crystal cities. Vorthak families ran from their homes near military bases. The servant races, who had been treated as slaves for generations, watched in amazement as their masters fled in terror. In the underground command bunker, Vexthul raged at his generals. "How did these primitives get past our fleets? Where are our forces? Dead or scattered," General Thexmore admitted. "The humans fight like nothing we have ever seen. They appear from nowhere, strike without warning, and vanish before we can respond." "What about the frontier fleets?" "Also destroyed. The humans left no survivors to report their methods." Vexthul looked at the tactical display showing human ships surrounding his world. 6 months ago, he had ordered the destruction of 3 human colonies without a second thought. The humans had seemed weak and helpless. Now their black ships hung in his sky like birds of prey. The hour passed quickly. When no surrender came, Changmin gave the order that would be remembered forever. "All ships, begin precision bombardment. Target military installations only. Civilian areas are protected." The human fleet opened fire. Unlike the Vorthak bombardment of human colonies, this attack was surgical. Energy beams struck weapon factories, not hospitals. Missiles hit military bases, not schools. The humans had studied the planet for weeks, identifying every target with care. But the bombardment was devastating. Vorthak military might built over centuries burned away in hours. Their proud space navy was destroyed in its berths. Their defensive systems melted under human fire. Colonel Jung-Woo Jin led the first ground assault. His Marines landed near the capital city in black dropships that screamed through the atmosphere. They moved through the crystal streets like shadows heading for government buildings. The Vorthak army tried to stop them, but human tactics were too advanced. The aliens fought in formation as they had for thousands of years. The humans fought like hunters, using every building and street for cover. "Remember," Jung told his troops over the radio, "we are not conquerors. We are here for justice, protect civilians, and capture the war criminals." The battle for the capital lasted 6 hours. When it ended, human flags flew over the government complex. The Crystal Palace where Vorthak rulers had planned genocide was now in human hands. In the deep bunker, Vexthul and his council waited for the end. They had tried to negotiate, offering to spare half the human colonies if the attack was called off. The humans had not even responded. "They mean to kill us all," one counselor whimpered. "Impossible," Vexthul said, though he no longer believed it. "They are too weak to maintain occupation of our world." Above them, explosions shook the bunker as human soldiers fought through the defensive levels. The sounds grew closer every minute. Then the lights went out. Emergency power flickered on, casting strange shadows on the walls. In the red light, the Vorthak leaders looked like demons from ancient nightmares. The bunker door exploded inward. Smoke filled the chamber as human soldiers poured through. Their black armor made them look like death itself. Captain Moon Jae-sung stepped forward and removed his helmet. His young face was marked with scars from New Seoul. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but filled with steel. High Commander Vexthul, you are under arrest for crimes against humanity. Genocide, murder of civilians, destruction of protected worlds. Vexthul tried to maintain his dignity. By what authority do you arrest a sovereign leader? Moon gestured to the sounds of battle above them. By the authority of the dead. 8 million humans cannot speak for themselves, so we speak for them. The alien leader was dragged from his bunker in chains. As he was marched through the Crystal City, Vorthak civilians stared in shock. Their mighty commander, who had boasted of destroying human worlds, now stumbled like any other prisoner. But the most shocking thing was how the humans treated the alien population. Instead of revenge, they brought food and medical supplies to areas damaged in the fighting. They established safe zones for refugees. They began repairing civilian infrastructure. Dr. An Mi-young set up translation centers where humans and Vorthaks could communicate. Many aliens approached with questions. Why do you not kill us all? One elderly Vorthak asked. We would have shown no mercy if our positions were reversed. Dr. An smiled sadly. That is exactly why we are different from you. General Hong Seok-jin oversaw the occupation from the former government palace. His staff worked day and night to maintain order and prevent humanitarian disasters. The irony was not lost on him. Humans were now protecting the very people who had tried to exterminate them. Sir, his aide reported, resistance groups are forming in the outer cities. They want to continue fighting. Hong nodded. Send negotiators, not soldiers. Offer them a choice, peaceful surrender or evacuation to neutral worlds. But make it clear that further violence will not be tolerated. Most Vorthak groups chose to surrender. Those who did not were allowed to leave, taking with them a final message from humanity. As night fell over Vorthak Prime, Admiral Changmin walked through the Crystal City. Alien families peered at him from windows, still afraid but no longer in terror. Human soldiers directed traffic and distributed supplies. Children of both species played in the parks under careful supervision. It was not the scene of conquest that most species would have expected. The humans had taken this world not to rule it, but to ensure that no other worlds would burn. Changmin's communication device beeped. It was a message from Earth from President Han Ji-young herself. Admiral. Her voice was tired but proud. The galaxy is watching. Every species wants to know what humanity will do now that we have won. Changmin looked up at the stars, where human ships still patrolled in silent vigilance. Tell them, he replied, that we remember both our mercy and our strength. And we will use whatever is necessary to protect the innocent. Fleet Admiral Nam Do-hyun looked out at the human war fleet as it moved through space. 300 black ships traveled in perfect formation toward Vorthak space. Unlike the bright decorated vessels of other species, human warships were built for one purpose. They were instruments of death. The flagship Earth's Vengeance led the formation. Behind it came destroyers, cruisers, and carriers filled with fighters. Every ship was painted matte black to absorb sensor beams. Every surface was covered in weapons. Admiral, his communications officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from the Vorthak fleet. Put it on screen. A Vorthak commander appeared. The alien was tall and thin, with forearms and skin like gray leather. When it spoke, its voice was filled with contempt. Human insects, it said. Turn back now or be destroyed. You cannot win against the might of the Confederacy. Nam smiled coldly. Tell them we have a message for them too. The alien waited, expecting pleas for mercy. You killed our children, Nam said simply. Now you die. He cut the transmission and turned to his weapons officer. Begin the hunt. The human fleet scattered like smoke in the wind. Each group of ships took a different path through the asteroid belt. The Vorthak expected a traditional battle, fleet against fleet in open space. Instead, the humans vanished. Captain Ryu Minho commanded the destroyer Seoul's Vengeance as it hid behind a massive asteroid. His ship was one of 50 lying in ambush throughout the belt. They had been waiting for 3 days. Contact, his sensor operator whispered. Vorthak convoy 12 ships. Ryu watched the enemy vessels on his screen. They were huge compared to his destroyer, but size was not everything. The aliens moved slowly, confidently, never expecting attack. All ships, Ryu transmitted on a tight beam. Ghost formation. Strike fast, strike hard, disappear. The human ships emerged from the asteroids like deadly shadows. Their weapons fired at point-blank range, tearing holes in Vorthak hulls. The aliens had barely raised their shields when half their convoy was already destroyed. Target their engines, Ryu ordered. Leave them floating. The destroyer's railguns punched through alien armor like paper. One by one, the Vorthak ships went dark and began to drift. But the humans were not finished. Launch the pods, Ryu commanded. Small pods ejected from human ships and attached to the disabled Vorthak vessels. Inside each pod was a simple device with a timer and a message recorder. The human ships vanished back into the asteroid field, leaving the aliens alone with their dead. When Vorthak rescue ships arrived hours later, they found the pods. The message was the same on each one. Jin Woo's face appeared on their screens, covered in dust and blood. "You killed my friends," he said quietly. "You killed the woman I loved. Remember our faces because we remember yours." Then the pods exploded, finishing what the human weapons had started. Lieutenant Kim Ye-jin led her fighter squadron through the gas clouds of the Rigel system. She had been on Luna Prime when the bombardment started. Her parents, her brother, her childhood friends, all dead. Now she flew with others like her, survivors who had nothing left but rage. "Ghost Riders, this is Ghost Leader," she transmitted. "Enemy formation spotted. 12 o'clock high." 30 human fighters moved through the colorful gas clouds. Their ships were small and fast, designed for hit-and-run attacks. Each pilot was a volunteer, and each volunteer had lost everything. The Vorthak battle group consisted of 6 heavy cruisers escorting a supply convoy. They flew in tight formation, their shields overlapping for protection. It was a good defensive strategy against conventional attacks, but the humans were not conventional. "Remember," Ye-jin told her pilots, "we're not trying to destroy them all. We're trying to terrify them." The fighters split into 3 groups and attacked from different directions. They used the gas clouds for cover, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. Their weapons were not powerful enough to destroy the big ships, but they could damage sensors, weapons, and engines. More importantly, they could get inside the Vorthak's heads. "This is insane," one alien commander transmitted to another. "Where are they coming from?" "I don't know," came the reply. "They're everywhere and nowhere." The human fighters swarmed around the convoy like angry insects. Every time the Vorthak turned to face them, they were gone. Every time the aliens thought the attack was over, more fighters appeared. After 20 minutes, the humans vanished as suddenly as they had appeared. The convoy was damaged but still functional. However, the Vorthak crews were shaken. They kept firing at shadows for hours afterward. Intelligence Officer Park Soo-jin worked from a hidden base in the Tau Ceti system. Her job was psychological warfare, and she was very good at it. "Bow their emergency frequencies," she told her team. "Make sure every ship can hear this." Across Vorthak space, alien crews listened in horror as human voices filled their communication systems. The voices belonged to colonists who had died in the bombardment. Men, women, and children calling for help that never came. Then came the sounds of the bombardment itself. Energy weapons firing, buildings collapsing, people screaming. Finally, silence. Then a new voice, Admiral Kim Dae-ho, speaking in perfect Vorthak language. "You wanted to hear humans beg. Instead, you will hear them coming for you." The psychological effect was devastating. Vorthak crews began to report seeing human ships that were not there. They fired at asteroids and space debris thinking it was the enemy. Some crews refused to leave their home systems, afraid of the shadow devils that could strike anywhere. But the humans were just getting started. In the Outer Rim, Commander Yoon Hae-jin led a task force of 20 ships against a Vorthak mining operation. The aliens had built a base on a small moon, extracting resources for their war effort. "Standard bombardment?" his weapons officer asked. "No," Yoon replied, thinking of the children who had died on New Busan. "We go down there personally." The human ships landed near the mining base like metal wasps. Marines poured out their armor black as space. They moved through the alien facility with deadly efficiency. But unlike the Vorthak, who had killed without mercy, the humans gave warnings. They broadcast evacuation orders in the alien language. They targeted equipment and weapons, not living beings. The surviving Vorthak workers watched in confusion as the humans destroyed their machines but spared their lives. This was not what they expected from the savage species their leaders described. One young alien approached a human marine. "Why do you not kill us?" it asked in broken human language. The marine removed his helmet, revealing the scarred face of a New Soul survivor. "Because we are not you," he said simply. The human task force left the aliens stranded but alive on their ruined base. When Vorthak rescue ships arrived, they found a message painted on the wall in their own language. "We could have killed you all. Remember this, Mercy, because it will not last forever." Across the galaxy, other species watched the conflict with growing amazement. The humans were not fighting like any military force they had ever seen. They struck from nowhere and vanished like smoke. They fought with precision instead of rage. They showed mercy to civilians while hunting soldiers without rest. The Keltharian Republic, which had ignored human pleas for help, sent secret messages offering to mediate. The Zephyrian Union, which had called humans barely civilized, suddenly wanted to establish trade relations. But Admiral Nam Jo-hyun rejected all offers of peace talks. "The time for words is over," he told the alien ambassadors. The Vorthak wanted war. Now they have it. The human fleet moved deeper into enemy space, leaving fear and confusion in their wake. The aliens had expected weak prey that would run or die quickly. Instead, they faced predators that hunted with cold intelligence and unlimited determination. On the bridge of Earth's vengeance, Nam looked at the tactical display showing human forces spread across 12 systems. Each group operated independently, striking and vanishing before the enemy could respond. "Sir," his intelligence officer reported, "Vorthak High Command is recalling ships from the frontier. They're consolidating their forces." "Good," Nam replied. "Let them gather their strength. When they're all in one place, we'll show them what humans do when we stop playing games." President Han Ji-young stood before the cameras with a heavy heart. Behind her, the flags of Earth and the 3 destroyed colonies hung at half-staff. The world waited to hear what she would say about the greatest tragedy in human history. "My fellow humans," she began, her voice steady despite the pain in her eyes. "Yesterday, our colonies of New Busan, Luna Prime, and New Seoul were attacked without warning. Nearly 8 million of our people are dead. Around the world, people stopped what they were doing. In coffee shops, workers stared at screens. In schools, teachers held their students close. In homes, families gathered around their televisions." The president continued. "The alien race called the Vorthak has sent us a message. They give us 30 days to leave all our outer worlds or they will destroy Earth itself. They call us a disease that must be cured." Angry shouts rose from the crowd outside the government building. People waved signs demanding war. Others wept for friends and family on the dead worlds. "But I have news for the Vorthak," President Han said, her voice growing stronger. "They have made a terrible mistake. They think we are weak because we choose peace. They think we are helpless because we build homes instead of weapons. They are wrong." Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, massive doors opened for the first time in decades. Dr. Lim Tae-kyung walked through corridors that few people knew existed. Beside him, General Bae Sung-ho checked his watch. "How long since anyone has seen this place?" Bae asked. 23 years, Dr. Lim replied. "Not since the Keltharian First Contact incident." They entered a vast chamber carved from the ocean floor. Lights came on, revealing something that took Bae's breath away. Hundreds of warships hung in construction bays. Some were finished. Others were nearly complete. "All of them looked deadly, my God," Bae whispered. "How many?" 700 ships, Dr. Lim said. "Destroyers, cruisers, battleships, and carriers. We've been building them for 20 years just in case." Admiral Kang Yu-jin met them at the central platform. She was young for an admiral, but her eyes held the hardness of someone who had seen war coming. "Admiral," General Bae said, "are they ready?" "The first wave launches in 18 hours, Kang replied. "We've been training crews in secret for years. Every ship has volunteers who lost someone in the colonies." In another part of the facility, Chief Engineer Oh Hyun-woo showed them the weapons testing range. Targets shaped like Vorthak ships hung in the water. "Kinetic bombarders," Oh explained, pointing to long metal rods. "We drop them from orbit. They hit with the force of nuclear bombs but leave no radiation." He moved to the next display. Fusion cluster bombs. One bomb becomes 1,000 smaller bombs, perfect for destroying large formations. General Bae studied a device that looked like a metal sphere. "What's this one?" Oh smiled, but it was not a kind smile. "Planet Cracker. Burrows deep into a world's core and destabilizes it. We built it after studying their attack patterns. You want to destroy their worlds? Only if they force us to, O replied. But they should know we can. Back on the surface, Captain Seo Ji-hoon met with his intelligence team. They had been studying Vorthak technology for years, ever since the first crashed ship was found near Jupiter. What do we know about their capabilities? Ji-hoon asked. His aide, Lieutenant Park Soo-min, pulled up a hologram of a Vorthak ship. They're big and powerful, but not as advanced as they want us to think. Their shields are strong, but they have blind spots. Their weapons are deadly, but they overheat quickly. Weaknesses? They fight like bullies, Soo-min continued. They're used to enemies that run away or surrender quickly. They've never faced a species that fights back with everything they have. Ji-hoon nodded. What about their psychology? They see themselves as superior to all other life. They can't imagine losing to what they call lesser species. This makes them arrogant. Meanwhile, survivors from the colonies were being debriefed. Admiral Kim Dae-ho, now on Earth, met with President Han in the secure briefing room. They didn't even try to communicate first, Kim reported. No demands, no warnings. They just started killing. How long did the bombardment last? The president asked. 6 hours for New Busan. They were thorough. They wanted to make sure nothing survived. Jin Woo, the only survivor from the science station, sat in the corner. He had barely spoken since his rescue, but now he looked up. They enjoyed it, he said quietly. Everyone turned to him. I could hear them on the radio frequencies, Jin Woo continued. They were laughing. They thought it was fun to kill us. President Han felt her jaw tighten. She had hoped this was just a misunderstanding, a conflict that could be resolved, but there could be no peace with creatures who found joy in mass murder. That evening, she addressed the world again. This time her message was different. The Vorthak believe they are dealing with a weak species, she said. They think we will beg for mercy or run away to hide. They have studied our peaceful colonies and decided we are no threat. She paused and looked directly into the camera. They have never seen what humans do when our children are murdered. They don't know what we become when our families are slaughtered. They attacked our civilians, our farmers, our scientists. They killed our children. Around the world, people leaned forward to listen. Now they will meet the other side of humanity, the side we hoped we would never have to show. In 30 days, we will give them our answer, and our answer will be written in fire across their worlds. In the secret base beneath the ocean, alarms were already sounding. The first wave of ships was preparing to launch. Crews ran to their stations, their faces grim with purpose. Admiral Kang stood on the bridge of her flagship and looked at the faces of her officers. Every one of them had lost someone in the colony attacks. Every one of them was ready to pay any price for justice. Send a message to all ships, she ordered. Tell them we are no longer the peaceful explorers who left Earth decades ago. We are the children of warriors, and our enemies have awakened something they cannot stop. The great ships began to rise through the water toward the surface. Above them the stars waited, and somewhere among those stars the Vorthak had no idea what was coming for them. The morning sun rose over New Busan like it had for the past 20 years. Golden light spread across the green fields where Earth crops grew tall and strong. Admiral Kim Dae-ho stood on his office balcony, drinking coffee and watching farmers work in the distance. The air smelled clean and fresh, nothing like the recycled atmosphere of spaceships. New Busan was humanity's pride. 2.5 million people called this world home. They had built cities, farms, schools, and hospitals. Children who were born here had never seen Earth. This was their home now. Kim's daughter Sora worked at the science station on the other side of the valley. She studied the local plants and animals with her partner Jin Woo. They had been friends since childhood and now worked together every day. Kim often joked that Jin Woo would marry his daughter someday. The communication device on Kim's desk beeped. His aide, Captain Cho Min-soo, appeared on the screen. Admiral, we're getting strange readings from the outer sensors. Something big is coming, Kim frowned. No ships were scheduled to arrive today. How big? Very big, sir. Multiple contacts. They're not responding to our calls. Kim set down his coffee. 20 years of military service had taught him to trust his instincts. Something felt wrong. Sound the alert. Get everyone to the shelters. The warning sirens began to wail across New Busan. Kim had ordered these drills many times, but this felt different. People looked up at the sky with worried faces. High above the planet, massive ships dropped out of hyperspace. They were dark and angular, covered in weapons. The Vorthak fleet had arrived without warning or mercy. At the science station, Sora looked up from her computer as the sirens screamed. "What's happening?" she asked Jinwoo. Before he could answer, the sky turned white. Beams of energy lanced down from orbit, striking the main city. Buildings vanished in flashes of light. The ground shook so hard that Sora fell from her chair. "We have to get to the bunker," Jinwoo shouted, pulling her up. They ran outside. All around them, the world was ending. Energy beams struck like lightning over and over. Each blast left nothing but glass craters where buildings used to be. The beautiful farms burned. The clean air filled with smoke and screams. Kim watched from his command center as his world died. The orbital bombardment was precise and ruthless. The aliens were not trying to capture New Busan. They were destroying it completely. "Sir, we need to evacuate," Commander Yoon Hae-jin said. "The spaceport is still intact. We can get some people out." Kim wanted to stay and fight, but there was nothing to fight with. New Busan had no warships, no weapons that could reach space. They were farmers and scientists, not soldiers. "Get as many as you can to the ships," Kim ordered. His heart broke with every word. At the science station, half the building had collapsed. Sora was trapped under a fallen beam. Jinwoo tried to lift it, but it was too heavy. "Go," Sora whispered. Blood ran down her face. "Save yourself. I'm not leaving you," Jinwoo said. He kept trying to move the beam. Another energy blast hit nearby. The building shook again. More debris fell around them. Sora reached up and touched Jinwoo's face. "Tell my father I was proud to be human." The light faded from her eyes just as another blast brought down the rest of the building. Jinwoo crawled out from the wreckage, crying and covered in dust. Around him, New Busan burned. The city where they had grown up, where they had planned their future, was gone. At the spaceport, Kim helped load survivors onto the last transport ship. Families were torn apart. Parents searched for children. Children cried for parents they would never see again. "Admiral, we have to go now," Captain Cho said. "The ship can't take much more damage." Kim looked back at his burning world one last time. Somewhere in that fire, his daughter was dead. His people were dead. Everything they had built over 20 years was ashes. The transport ship lifted off as more energy beams struck the ground. Through the windows, the survivors watched their home disappear beneath clouds of smoke. In space, Kim saw the alien fleet for the first time. Dozens of massive ships surrounded New Busan like predators around wounded prey. They were twice the size of anything humans had ever built. The ship's communication system crackled. An alien voice spoke in broken human language. "Pest control operation complete. Planet cleared for settlement. Humans are disease. We cure disease." Kim felt something cold settle in his chest. This was not war. This was extermination. Commander Yoon approached with a data pad. "Sir, we're getting reports from other colonies." Luna Prime and New Sol were attacked at the same time. Same pattern. Complete destruction. Kim closed his eyes. Luna Prime had 4 million people. New Sol had 1 million. His daughter was not the only one who died today. "How many survivors total?" Kim asked. "Less than 10,000, sir. From all 3 worlds combined. 10,000 out of nearly 8 million. Kim looked at the alien ships one more time. They hung in space like metal vultures, already scanning the planet for places to build their own cities. The transport ship turned toward Earth. In the cargo hold, families huddled together and wept. Children asked where their friends were. Adults stared at nothing, their minds trying to understand what had happened. Jinwoo sat alone in a corner, still covered in dust from the science station. He thought about Sora's last words. She was proud to be human. Even as she died, she held on to that pride. Kim stood on the bridge and watched the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, home to 8 billion humans who did not yet know what had happened. They would learn soon enough. The aliens thought humans were a disease to be cured. They had never been more wrong about anything in their lives, but they would learn. Oh, they would learn.